everybody, welcome to another episode of the Armchair Crew Chief. My name is Jordan, and thanks for joining along with us. We had a wild race weekend. We are in the playoffs. Welcome to the playoffs for Craftsman Truck Series. We have about 4 more races for the Cup Series and Xfinity, but Craftsman, they are running hard into the playoffs. And we'll start off talking with them and what happened with them. Let's go ahead and dive into that. Lineup qualifying. Ty Majeski, Corey Heim, William Sawalich, Ben Rhodes, Matt Mills. That's your first through 5. Ty Majeski getting there, getting that pole. I mean, he pretty much dominated this race towards the end. He overcame a penalty, a speeding penalty going in. And then, I think what hurt him was, he couldn't overcome a 2.3 second difference between him and the race winner because he ended up not pitting. And, it kind of hurt him, especially with Richmond, because at Richmond you have your tire fall off, which is so great, and you lose seconds. I mean, it's crazy. It's tough to see. We had our playoffs going in. Stuart Friesen, unfortunately, ended up not making the playoffs. I mean, he was just right there battling with Matt Crafton and Matt DiBenedetto. And, I mean, it was crazy. It was nuts. So Hocevar was our race winner. Carson Hocevar got his 3rd win and a strong lead into the playoffs. He ended up finishing first with Ty Majeski, as we were talking about, finishing 2nd. Zane Smith was 3rd. Jake Garcia 4th. Matt Mills 5th. Matt Mills was running the Kyle Busch truck. This was his first race, if I recall, and he did pretty darn good. Corey Heim in that 6th. Matt Crafton 7th. And Nick Sanchez 8th. Corey Heim and Nick Sanchez, they have been doing really strong coming out of, the ARCA series and so forth. The 2 people that we follow on this podcast, a little bit heavier on the trucks. You got Haley Deegan, 15th. She did pretty well. She started 25th. And then Raja Karuth ended up falling back 3 spots from where he started and getting 19th. It really wasn't their time this time. And I'm still starting to question Haley Deegan if she's right for trucks, if she's right for, Cup going forward, or not really so much Cup, but Xfinity, if she can get something. But, it's interesting to see what will happen going forward and how everything works out. As I was saying, we're going right into the playoffs with trucks, but I mean we're starting 2 weeks from now. So, it's going to be see who can't talk. It's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out because we're talking tight point spread right now, where Corey Heim, who's leading right now, is 30 points, and your 2 guys sitting on the outside looking in, Matt Crafton and Matt DiBenedetto, they are at 2 points. So you're talking 28-point difference, and we have 3 races until the next cutoff of 8. So we'll see what happens and how everything plays from there. I think it's going to be good to watch. I always like watching some of the truck stuff before, Truck and Cup. Truck Cup Xfinity. I think Xfinity is probably the best racing out there. Then you have your trucks, and then you have Cup Series. And I think that's mostly just because of the car and how hard it is to pass, or, just that kind of stuff with with Cup Series. But anyway, let's go back into everything. And, we're talking about the race here. And, we got our standings here. Corey Heim, Zane Smith, Hocevar, Eckes, Enfinger, Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, and Nick Sanchez. Nick Sanchez sits up top that new cutoff line. And then you have Matt DiBenedetto and Matt Crafton sitting below. So everybody's starting off pretty much a fresh slate on wins, when you're in. And, the rest is going to be off points. And as I was saying earlier, when you look at Corey Heim and like Carson Hocevar, who's coming off strong after winning, I mean, Hocevar's got more wins. He's got the most wins out of all the truck drivers. But he's got 3 DNFs, similar to Christian Eckes. He's led only less than half the laps that Corey Heim does, and that's why he's up there. But same thing with Zane Smith. The thing that helps Zane Smith is he had more top 5s and more stage wins. Carson's only got 2 stage wins. So it's, he hasn't had a strong, when he's on, but he's off a lot if you look at the way everything's running. And it just so happens that he finds it and he rolls. So maybe they can kind of even that out, level that out so he can go. But other than that, we're looking at playoffs going forward. We have coming forward with those guys, we have the Indianapolis Raceway Park on the 11th, and then we have the Milwaukee Mile on the 27th, and then September 8th is Kansas. That is our cutoff race, is Kansas, and then we go into Bristol. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens playing out, how these guys run. I mean, we're running some similar tracks, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. So let's go ahead and move into Xfinity. And Xfinity, wild race. So they were up in Wisconsin running Road America. They did what the Truck Series do whenever when they go to Lucas Oil and so on. They're not going to have the teams there because those teams are going to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where end of stage. Everybody comes in, you have like 5 minutes to work on the car, and then you resume. So you're not really going to lose too much unless you come in and have to pit whenever you hit something or something like that. So Xfinity, I mean, as I said, it was a wild race. We had our lineup. Our 5-1 was Sam Mayer, Riley Hurst, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, and A.J. Allmendinger. A.J., Cup Series regular, decided to forego qualifying at Richmond. I think his words were exactly on Sirius XM. He was like, we stink there. It's no sense in doing it, so I'm going to go have fun, and we're going to go trophy hunting. He did. He got the pole. Pretty strong car qualifying. Unfortunately, it didn't really play out too much on the race itself. We go into, stage one. Our top five were Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, A.J. Allmendinger, John Hunter, Sage Karam. And then going forward, we had stage two was Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, Sage Karam, A.J. Allmendinger, and Sam Mayer. It's amazing that A.J. was up there the whole time because his car he just didn't have it really. He couldn't go out there and pass everybody. He was, as I say, going forward because it just went, and it was crazy to watch some of the stuff and how it happened going forward because he didn't have it. He didn't have that A.J. Allmendinger, that touch on road courses like he normally does. Chandler Smith, he had a nasty wreck at lap 21 going into turn one. So the front stretch is about the largest stretch for the series on this race at Road America. That's long. And you could see him running, and I think it was Allgaier right behind him. And you just see stuff fly. His rotors just blew, completely destroyed. And, luckily he kind of veered and hit the wall and then hit on the front stretch. And that was a nasty wreck. And it's amazing that he was able to walk out under his own power. They talked to Chris Rice, about the race, and he's a guy associated with Colleague. He's up there with Matt Colleague, the owner, and he's like, we make safe race cars, and it's good. I'd rather have a safe race car than a super fast race car. So there you go. And it was interesting to see that. I mean, it was nasty. It's amazing that he did come out. Same thing happened, I think, earlier as well with Kyle Sieg. I could be wrong on that. I know somebody else had an issue too, and almost pretty much did the same thing. But I mean, it was crazy. There was a lot of wild things going on there. John Hunter Nemechek ripped the splitter off his car. And, I mean, it looked like a shark. It was almost a great ending to Shark Week, being last week. Unfortunately, you had some of your good cars ended up with wrecks. I mean, Josh Berry, he lost traction with Sammy Smith spinning. He took out Allmendinger. Allmendinger had a chance to possibly come in and take it. Cole Custer, they took Cole Custer. He was running second. He was running really strong. I think he probably could have won it. And then we had the number 19 car lay fluid out on the track, and so they had to go out and clean. They actually red flagged right around their time to clean up everything, because, I mean, it was everywhere. And my goodness, the last lap of that race, you could almost say the last, like, 2 turns, that was the wildest out there. You had people changing left and right on who was up there and who was going to take it in first. I mean, it was, oh my goodness, it was crazy. Between Sage Karam, Austin Hill, Parker Kligerman, Sam Mayer, even, like as I was saying, Josh Berry, Riley Herbst, they were up there. They spun, unfortunately. They kept going. I mean, it was nuts. Kaz Gralla was even in the mix for a little bit. And, just so... I have a video of of the kids yelling at the TV, wanting somebody to win. And I think it was Sage Karam we were going for. And then Parker Kligerman, he got up front. I mean, and they were just fighting back and forth. And then our race winner was Sam Mayer. He ended up showing that he had it, and he was able to pass it. Parker, I mean, he had a strong showing. I thought he was going to win it, and then he kind of ran out of it a little bit. Josh Berry, he was up there leading, and he just overdrove it. Same thing with A.J. Allmendinger. He ended up finishing 9th. These guys, they had the car, but just, I don't know, it was loose, and they didn't have enough of the car, I will say. And they just overdrive it and just spun it out and pushed it too far past its limits. So, going forward with that, we do have 4 races left in the Xfinity and Cup Series. So let's go ahead and dive into our top 10 now for playoffs. We have Austin Hill, John Hunter Nemechek, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, Sam Mayer, Josh Berry, Sammy Smith, Jeb Burton, Daniel Hemrick, Sheldon Creed, Riley Herbst. If you ask me, because he is 100 points to the good, you're looking at Josh Berry is pretty much a lock in there. I think Daniel Hemrick is close to being a lock in there, unless something catastrophically happens in multiple races going forward. And then, Sheldon Creed's up there fighting. Riley Herbst, they are the, 11 and 12 for this. And then Parker Kligerman's the first one looking in. I don't see Brandon Jones coming in. I mean, I heard Denny talking about Chase Elliott, which we'll kind of get into a little bit later. Like, oh, he can get in on points and so on. And he was using Bubba Wallace as his point. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But anyway, Brandon Jones is 61 points below the cutoff line. I think Parker is going to be the one that might slip in somewhere unless somebody else wins and just pushes this line down. It's going to be interesting to see. Josh Berry's sitting there 7th, and he has 107 points. He's over Sammy Smith, Jeb Burton for regular season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We're going forward with that. We are going to be running at Michigan going forward, and we'll see moving forward what will happen. It's going to be interesting. I hear Michigan's one of these that after a repave and all that's kind of got a little bit dull, but it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. I don't know what to make of that and how to make of it. But let's go ahead and move into Richmond and go with all that. Again, we're back to Richmond. We went Road America. The Xfinity cars ended up running during the day, and then the trucks ran at night on Saturday, and then we move out to the Cookout 400, which made history over the weekend with the cleanest racing that NASCAR has seen in all of its history. We're talking, nobody went 5 laps down. Everybody finished. We didn't have a DNF. We had one caution out for incident in the Cup Series race, and that was at the end. So, it was good. It was quick. I don't know how I feel too much about it. It was very interesting watching some of the strategy out there, and we'll kind of touch on that a little bit. But let's go ahead and talk about who got the pole, and we'll talk about our top 5. We'll go 5-1 here. Bubba got 5th, Chase Elliott 4th, Denny Hamlin 3rd, Kyle Busch 2nd, Tyler Reddick got the pole, and he was fighting up there. He was in Group B, and again, I go with that stage racing or stage qualifying or groups qualifying. I don't like it. Just let the guys run, and everybody run. Either do a time session, the fastest lap, or everybody go out like they've been doing. I'm kind of getting sick and tired of some of this other stuff. So we'll just keep on moving forward. Tyler Reddick got the stage 1 win, 23-11. And you could say, you throw Denny in there since he's the owner. That's 1, 2, 3 there. Tyler, Bubba, and Denny. Chase Elliott, 4th at the stage. Kevin Harvick, 5th. Ryan Preece, 6th. Go into stage 2. And this is where all the strategy started playing out. And it was, Truex started 9th. And they started racing. He got too wide with Ricky going in, and Ricky hit him and held him hard. I don't know if they didn't clear him or what happened, but that sent Truex all the way back to 20th, and he couldn't recover until this stage. So the stage 2 was pretty long, and then the stage 3 was really long. But we're talking, most of these cars did two pit strategy for both stage 3 going to the end of the race, as well as the stage 2 going to the end of stage 2. Except for Martin Truex Jr., Michael McDowell tried it, and I think Suarez tried it. And the only one that kind of made out with it was Truex. And I tell you what, it was probably stressful in that car. And you start going out there, you unlap yourself after everybody starts pitting, and you pit and you get lapped. And then, I don't know. It was kind of interesting to see all that and see how it goes. Ty Gibbs, another one of those guys making one of these quiet runs, staying up there in the top 15. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into our stage 2 ending. Keselowski, Buescher, RFK swap 23-11. But then you had 23-11 right there at 3rd, 4th, and 5th with Tyler, Bubba, and Denny. Kyle Busch 6th, Ryan Preece 7th, Truex 8th, Ty Gibbs 9th, Joey Logano 10th. And then we go ahead and get to our end of our race, which, again, this is one of those that kind of the strategy kind of helped out Truex to an extent. I wonder if they went to a 2 strategy, what would have happened, but they claimed that they were having so many issues getting started going forward that they had a better long-run car. And so, they ended up finishing 7th. They came in and pitted, and the pit was slow. They started off 9th on a restart on that one caution for cause. But our top 5, we'll go ahead and go 5-1. Ryan Preece finished 5th. He had one of his strongest runnings. Logano 4th, Kyle Busch 3rd, Denny Hamlin 2nd, and our winner, first win this season, Chris Buescher got the win for this is RFK's first win. If you don't think about the duels, and I think it was last year. With Buescher and Keselowski winning those. But a points-paying race, this is their first win, if I recall. And so that's good to see Buescher go out there and win. And, Denny, I think if Denny would have got next to him, I think he would have pushed him into the wall, knowing what Denny did last week at Pocono and what he's been doing recently. And he would have probably blamed it on. He wrecked himself because, Denny can't do no wrong around anybody else. And, yeah, I'm calling Denny Hamlin out. And you say, well, you don't know anything. That's why it's called Armchair Crew Chief. But just watching everything and the way he talks, the way he acts, I'm not a big fan of Denny Hamlin, and he probably could care less. But anyway, so Denny got 2nd. Kyle Busch there had a really strong run. He was towards the back, and they made some changes, and they got that car going well. I'm not a big Kyle Busch fan. I don't really care for him, but he's making some runs showing that it's not just Joe Gibbs out there. He can go somewhere else and run and race and win. And, yeah, you could argue that he does that with his trucks, but that's his racing. I'm talking about he goes and races for somebody else. I'm not a big fan of RCR and Austin Dillon. I think Austin Dillon shouldn't have that car. I think it should go to somebody else. But, it's not my money. It's not my team. Chase Elliott finished 13th. He's one of the ones that we're going to be looking at here soon. Blaney 14th, Ty Gibbs 15th, Reddick 16th. And, as we were talking about, the guys that kind of got our spin was Daniel Suarez. LaJoy had a hard run, and he's one of the guys that we follow on this podcast. It was just rough. But as I was saying earlier, they made, in the first time in the 75-year history of NASCAR, the cars, everybody finished. We did not have a DNF, and we only, less than 5 laps was the first time in in the history, which is pretty good, especially at a small track like this, 3/4 mile track. It's that's pretty impressive because you can go out there and you can lap people quick. There's people that have lapped the whole field and just ran away with it. So that's pretty big to see going forward, and we'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and dive into our standings for our Cup Series. We'll go regular season first because we have some running up here with regular season. So we'll go top 16 here. We'll go 16-1. Michael McDowell 16, Bubba Wallace 15, Ricky Stenhouse, Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, Keselowski, Joey Logano sitting at 10th, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick at 6th, Kyle Busch 5th, Christopher Bell 4th, William Byron 3rd, Denny Hamlin 2nd, and then Truex sitting at 1st. There you go. You have a change right there. William Byron did not race well at this race at Richmond, and it showed. Just looking at it, just dive into it real quick. I'll tell you where he finished, but he got leaped by Denny Hamlin for regular season by 3 points. 3 points changed that, and William Byron finished 21st, so that showed there. Truex right now, he's what is that, 40 points roughly, 39 points to the good for the regular season playoff, which is very important. And let's go back and I'll kind of just briefly touch on that. We were talking about the Truck Series and how tight their points are. We're talking Truex 39, then Byron, then 39 to the good. Denny Hamlin's 39 behind. Third is 43 points below. Fourth is 91 points. So you have a bigger spread, and you're going to have some of these guys. You have a battle right here between 1, 2, and 3, and it's going to play out within these next 4 races on who gets the regular season, whether or not somebody else wins, takes stage points. And stage points on these, we're talking 1 to 10. One stage point, the stage winner gets playoff points, but we're actually going to be talking about 1 to 10. You get an extra points besides your race finish. So let's go ahead and go to our projected playoff point here. We're going to go ahead and bypass everybody until we get to about 14, 15, and 16. Those are the guys that are not locked in. I would go ahead and argue that Kevin Harvick is probably locked in. He's sitting at 634. I mean, it's going to be tight. He could get knocked out too, honestly. But Keselowski, Wallace, Michael McDowell, that is your 14, 15, and 16. Ty Gibbs is the one looking out. He is 18 points below, 18 from Michael McDowell. Bubba moved up to 54. Keselowski's 151. Harvick's 182. That's why I was saying Harvick's kind of pretty much locked in for the most part, unless we have 4 new winners going forward, which is going to be really hard to do. But, A.J. Allmendinger sitting there, 22 points. Daniel Suarez, 34. And this is where I was getting in earlier with Chase Elliott. He's 40 points below the cutoff line. If you talk to Denny Hamlin, he thinks he can get in there if he can turn it around and run like he did at Richmond this past weekend. I don't know. I mean, because you're fighting all these other guys. Keselowski's been doing pretty decent. Bubba Wallace has been up there. Michael McDowell, big, strong surprise. You got Ty Gibbs resurging. I don't see Chase Elliott making it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see him making it. I don't see what's going to happen to make him, unless he wins. I think he's a win and in. Unless these guys, Brad, Bubba, Michael, Ty, and heck, even AJ, unless they wreck themselves out 3 races, I don't see Chase Elliott going up there unless he can get, stay in the top 10 for the whole race to get playoff or get extra points and so on. Again, I don't see him doing it. Which, you can go back and look and argue that maybe it's because of his broken leg. He just didn't. I think he would be in the playoff mix if he didn't miss as many races as he did because of his skiing accident. Or was it skiing? Anyway, yeah, I see that being a big play in that. And, looking forward, do you sit there and argue that these guys shouldn't be having, quote-unquote, living a life? They only have like 4 weeks off in between the season. So, I I don't know. It'll be interesting. This was a hot race. They had just kind of changing back with everything that happened in Richmond. I mean, this was a hot race. I just saw a quote that Truex said, "My cheek feels like it's sunburnt. It was like a hairdryer blowing on you." And I can't remember who was talking about it. One of the guys on Fox, he's like, your cool box, if it's humid out there, that thing ain't going to work that well. And they had one of those temperature readings for TV on Denny Hamlin's car, and it was up there 133, something like that, for pretty much the whole race. So, I mean, I see it was hot, and that's nuts. That's why they get paid the big bucks to do this stuff, and people say that racing's not a sport. I'd like to see you go sit in a car for 400 laps at 130 degrees with heat blowing on you. It's tough. It's interesting to see. And then going back with the TV, I think TV focused a little bit more on some of these other battles that happen and not focused on like the lead or changing lead, especially during green flag pit stops. It's almost, I don't know who's in there directing and telling them what to do. And they still, in my opinion, they didn't focus too much on the cutoff. Maybe, since we're getting 4 laps down, closer to, the playoff starting, we'll see something happening. I don't know. But, just going on with the schedule going forward on that, let's go ahead and look at that. We have the Michigan races we touched on coming up. Then we have, Indianapolis road course. After that, if I remember correctly. Pulling it up right here. Yeah, Indianapolis road course. I hope that's gone next year. And then we go up to Watkins Glen on the 20th of August. And then Daytona. Daytona is the end of the regular season for Cup and Xfinity. And then we bump into the playoffs where we go Darlington, Kansas, Bristol. So you see that big jump right there, that we were talking about with the trucks not showing up and going forward. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. As we were saying, we got four races left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Daytona's always a big question mark on what's going to happen. Watkins Glen. We got 2 road courses in there, so we could see AJ Allmendinger take a win and get into the playoffs, as we were talking about, and jump everybody down. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here. I think these road courses are going to play a role in this and see what happens. I don't, who knows? Truex might come out of here and wipe the field with it again. It's really hard to tell what'll happen, especially with the road courses. Michigan, as I was talking about, some people kind of say that it's a dull race because it's the repave and it's just lacking interest. I think the Cup race Sunday lacked interest because there was no wrecks really. It was a clean race, and people will say, well, a clean race is awesome, you're doing this and that, and it helps the pit strategy. I get that, but at the same time, I want to see some people I want to see some fun. I want to see some craziness. So, just going forward with all that, I'm watching a replay right now. We'll see what happens in Michigan. See, they're getting 3 wide into the turn on a restart, and somebody slides up and has issues and then takes people out. That was a 15 taking people out, spinning Almirola, and just wrecked everybody. And it was a big wreck there. So Michigan has a chance to be a big wreck, and we can see what happens there. But moving forward, so let's go ahead and talk about the weekend schedule moving up, and then we'll get into a little bit of news that we have here. So Xfinity's got practice and qualifying on USA on Friday. It's starting at 3:35 and then going to 4:05. ARCA Menards will be running at 6 Eastern on Friday on FS1, Flow Racing, and MRN. And then we'll dive into Saturday. Saturday we have practice and qualifying Cup Series on USA and MRN starting at 12:35 and qualifying at 1:20. The Cabo Wabo 250 for Xfinity starting at 3:30 will be on NBC and MRN for radio. And then going Sunday, August 6th, we have our Firekeepers Casino 400 on USA and MRN at 2:30 Eastern. So that is our big change there going forward in our season and our weekend. 2:30 on Sunday. So let's go ahead and dive into a little bit more of this. As I was saying, they made history this past weekend. Ty Gibbs made history as well. It's not really him, but his crew, fastest 4-tire pit stop in NASCAR history. Beard Motorsports is going to be making their first race at their home track with Austin Hill starting on the 62 car. We have some more information about Andretti. People saying that they're probably going to take one of the charters from Spire. I don't know what happened there. I maybe see them giving up one of the charters, Spire, but charters are hard to come by, and they're hoarded. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. The big news coming out, and we'll see him run, as we were talking about at the Indy Road Course, is Shane Van Gisbergen. He will be making his second race at Indianapolis Motorsport, but he came out this past week and made news. He said in an interview during his racing that, hey, I plan on coming in and racing NASCAR, whether it's full-time or what, next year. So it seems like he's going to be out of the Australian Supercar racing and moving into NASCAR going forward. We'll see what happens going with that. It'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be fun to watch him since he's coming. I mean, same thing with this other guy that's coming out from Australia that raced in Australian Supercar. See what they can do with these Cup Series cars, because they're the closest that we have seen to a Cup Series car as those supercars. Go out and watch one of these things. YouTube it. I mean, it's crazy. But, that's going to be interesting and exciting going forward. We'll see what happens with that. But, we'll go on and move forward. We got Michigan, and we'll see what happens there. See if we get a little bit more clarity on our playoff situation for Xfinity. And, we'll catch you guys later, and I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Catch out the shorts on TikTok and YouTube for more information. Have a good one.